Hey guys and girls, Nathan Birch here from the B.Invested headquarters today, talking about what sort of properties should we be buying for our property portfolio and journey of getting us to where we want to be. A lot of people come and talk to me and they say, Nathan, should I go buy a house where I can potentially develop it, maybe one day add a granny flat, hopefully sell it to a developer, whatnot. Should I buy a unit? Units aren't any good. Should I buy a house in the city, a place in the regional? I'd like to buy a whole block of units, etc. So there's lots of, should I do this, should I do that, etc., and variables. Where do we start and what do we need in our portfolio? So I think we should have them all, personally, but in what sequence? So I tend to think about it as if we're going to go on a travel somewhere, most people jump and say, we'd get there via using a plane. A plane is a vehicle to get you to where you want to be, but it is not the destination. You need to work out where is your destination first and what vehicle do you need in order to get you there. So for example, me, B.Invested office, you can see my lake behind me in Sydney. And if I wanted to go to Perth, I know that I'm in Sydney, Perth is over the other side of the country. Most people think you'd fly to Perth. However, if you're in Perth, you don't have to fly anywhere. So everybody's journey starts at a different point, ends at a different destination. So I think ultimately it's important to work out what the destination is and what is the best vehicle in order to get you there. A plane will not get me from my office to Perth. Identify where that destination is and where I am at the moment. But then I need to do different steps. I could catch the metro line outside my office. I could travel by bus. I could drive to the airport, hop on the plane. It all takes planning, all takes structure, all takes strategy in order to get there. So do you need a humble little house that's going to, be a knockdown later? Do you want a large property portfolio? What is it that you're aiming to do, and then work backwards from that position and work out what vehicle it is that you need. In my portfolio, my first 7 properties or so were all houses until I couldn't get a loan anymore. I went on and bought a property which was a townhouse. It's 120 grand. So when I got stuck, I was trying to go from like number 7 to number 8. I couldn't get there. I met my broker and I said, can I get there? And she goes, no. And I came back and I found this little townhouse for 130 grand. And everyone told me townhouse is no good, but I was going to push my luck. And I thought it was cheap. Sold beforehand for, 300 grand. I thought at the time it was worth about 200. I was picking it up for 130. So I went to my broker, said, can I buy this? And the numbers were 130 grand and about 180 bucks a week rent. And she said, yeah. And I was like, hang on a second, you told me beforehand I couldn't get a house, which was 200 grand renting for like 200 bucks a week. And she goes, because the debt is lower and it's services. I was like, okay, cool. And then another townhouse in that same complex came up and I said, can I buy this townhouse? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, well, hang on a second. These are 2 townhouses that I could buy for 130 grand and 140 grand. That's 270. How can I afford to buy these when I couldn't buy the house beforehand for 200,000? She said, because the cash flow, you've got 2 rental incomes coming through, it services with the banks. I was like, right? And it made me realize at that point from that day forward that it wasn't about the property that I was buying, it was about what I needed to give the banks from a servicing perspective. So the properties that I've bought there forward were all different sorts of properties. At one point, my portfolio was 100% houses. It went to about 50% house, 50% townhouse unit villa. Now it sits around maybe 40 to 50% townhouse unit villa, to about maybe 25% houses, to about 10-15% of large land holdings, which I'm going to do developments on in the future. I own just probably 10 minutes away from me here in Sydney, about 200,000 square meters worth of land collectively across different development sites for me in the future. I've got commercial properties and also motels and other sort of properties that are on the weirdest end of the spectrum. What is the right vehicle for you today? It's important to work that out, working out where you are heading to, where you are today, and what vehicle it is that you need to get from point A to point B. Ultimately, cash flow is very important. If you want to replace the income, you need properties with cash flow. You need to have a good strategy. I see so many times people say, I want to do a reno, right? All these people out there spruiking, you can make some money in property. I'm not interested in money. I want to own assets. The property can make you money, cool, right? But I've never heard someone say, I'm so glad I sold a house 10 years ago because the house has gone up in value or the unit's gone up in value. So for me, it's about retaining those assets. I don't buy properties to reno and sell them. You can make $100,000, but what's $100,000 going to do? $100,000 today isn't what $100,000 was 10 years ago. And if you held that property from 10 years ago, it's going to be worth a hell of a lot more than what it was back then. So, is it a strategy where you buy a property, renovate it, sell it? Ultimately, for me, if you can go through a property cycle, if you can take a 500 grand house and turn it into $1 million, or you can take $5 million worth of assets and turn it into $10 million when it doubles. I want to take the largest asset base through that cycle. I want to have the largest cash flow stream and multiple income streams coming through that I can inflate. If I've got one tenant that I can put up the rent by $20 a week, that's $20 a week. If I have 100 properties at $10 per week increase, there we go. There's $1,000 per week, extra income, or 50 grand a year. So as you get them on scale, you can build out your cash flow stream how you want it to be. You can build out your net worth to be how you want it to be, but you need to minimize risk along the way. And that is why I always talk about the three main keys of investing: below market value, upside for capital growth, strong cash flow. If it doesn't have them, I don't want it. So if you need help, reach out to us, 1300-367-925. Send us an email, admin@binvested.com.au. If you have any questions, put them below. We'll catch up soon. Bye for now.